Hello, and welcome now to lecture 41, and let's just pick this up where we left it, doing our upholstered seat bases. So we have our upholstery now looking really quite nice. I like what we've got here, but I do want to put a piping detail on these seat bases just to add a little bit more realism again. So let's show you how to do that. So let's grab this first one here, and let's tap into edit mode with it. And let's press 2 on the keypad so we can select edges. And I want to select an edge about there, about that height. So about there. So I'll hold Alt so I can select a complete loop and select that loop just there like that. Yeah, that's a nice height. I'm going to go with that. Once I've selected that, I'm going to press Shift D and I'm going to press Z, and I'm just going to pull that copy up like this. Alright, I'm going to press P now, and I'm going to separate by selection to separate it away from the actual other component. Okay, let's tap out of edit mode now, and let's grab this, and let's right click and convert to a curve. Okay, come down to this one here to data and click on this. And on the bevel here, let's increase this. So that's too much. So let's put an extra 0 to the right of the decimal point and enter. And let's increase that 1 to something like a 3 and see how that looks. That's looking better, but I think it's still a little small. So I'll increase that 3 to a 5 and see how that looks. And yeah, I would say that's about right. Once you've done that, increase the resolution to about an 8. And there we go. So right click on it and convert it back to a mesh, and then right click on it again and shade auto smooth, and then right click on it again and set the origin to the geometry. Now let's go ahead and pull this down until it's back where it was, and just have a look at it and see if it's actually sitting in the right place and see that it looks good. And I like that just where it is. Yeah, that looks good. So I'm going to do the same now for the bottom edge here. So I'm going to tap into edit mode again, and I'm going to hold Alt and I'm going to select a loop, and I'll select it about there. I'll press Shift D and Z and bring it up, and I'll press P and I'll separate by selection. Okay, I'll tap out of edit mode now, and I'll select it again, right click, and I'll convert to a curve. Let's go down to the bevel settings and let's put that where it was on the other one. So I'll add an extra 0 to the right of the decimal point, and I'll turn the 1 into, what was it? A 5. Let's go for that. And let's increase the resolution to 8. And there we go. So now we've got some right clicking to do. So let's select the object and right click and convert to a mesh. And right click again and shade auto smooth, and right click again and set the origin to the geometry. Let's pull that down into position and see where it wants to be, and let's have a look at it there and see what it looks like. And I'm pleased with that. So once I've done that, what I'm going to do is join all three of these together. So I'll grab maybe the two pipings and then the seat last, and I'll press Ctrl J to join those into one. And there we go. So that is that upholstered seat base now all finished. So let's go ahead now and repeat that process. So I'll grab maybe this one here, tap into edit mode, and I'm going to hold Alt and select a loop, and I'm going to select maybe this one here, and I'm going to press Shift D and Z and pull this up. I'm going to press P and separate by selection, and then tap out of edit mode. Okay, I'm going to click on it and right click, and I'm going to convert to a curve. Once I've done that, I'll increase my depth to 0, add an extra 0 to the right of the decimal point, and change our 1 into a 5 and click enter, and increase our resolution to 8. And then let's right click and convert to a mesh, right click and shade auto smooth, and then right click and set the origin to the geometry. Now let's pull that down into position and see where it wants to be. I think down a little further than that. I don't think that's quite right yet. So I'll pull that down a little bit more. And I'd say that's about right now. That's good. Is it right? Let's have a look here. Maybe even a little bit more. And yeah, that's looking good to me. So let's repeat that process again with the bottom. So I'll tap into edit mode and I'll select a loop. So I'll hold Alt and select maybe this one here like this. And I'll press Shift D and Z and pull this up like this. I'll press P and separate by selection. Tap out of edit mode, select it, right click, and I will convert to a curve. Here I'm going to increase the depth and add an extra 0 to the right of the decimal point and turn the 1 into a 5 and click enter. Let's increase our resolution to 8 and then let's right click again and convert to a mesh, right click again and shade auto smooth, right click again and set the origin to the geometry. Okay, let's pull that down into position and see where it looks about right. Let's inspect it just where it is. Maybe I'll pull that down a tiny bit more. And I think I'm happy with it there. So once you're happy with it, select the two pipings, then select the seat and press Ctrl J and join them into one. Okay, so let's do the last one. So let's grab this one and let's tap into edit mode. And let's select the loop, so I'll hold Alt. Maybe grab this one here. Is that right? It looks about the same. And press Shift D and Z. Bring this up, press P, separate by selection, tap out of edit mode, right click on it again and convert to a curve. Incidentally, if it won't convert to a curve, just come on over to the outliner and rename it as anything else. Just literally rename it as the word anything, that'll be fine. You just need to reword it and then it will convert to a curve if it's giving you problems. Sometimes it just won't let you, and if you do that, then that should resolve that issue. Okay, back to where were we? Okay, let's increase this. So let's increase our depth, add a 0 to the right of the decimal point, turn our 1 into a 5, click enter, increase our resolution to 8, and let's right click and convert to a mesh, right click and shade auto smooth, and right click and set the origin to the geometry. Let's pull that down and see where it looks best. And I would say that wants to go down a little bit more. I'd say that's about right. Yeah, that looks good to me. And let's do the same now with the bottom one. So let's tap into edit mode with again. And let's choose a loop here. So I'll hold on to Alt and select one, maybe about, is that good right there? Yeah, that's good. So I'll press Shift D and Z and take this up. And I'll press P and I'll separate by selection. I'll tap out of edit mode, right click the object, and I will convert to a curve. Okay, one last time. Let's increase our resolution. And there we go. Let's right click and convert to a mesh, right click and shade auto smooth, right click and set the origin to the geometry. Pull that down into position and see what it all looks like. And that looks good to me. So I'll grab this piping and the other piping and the seat base and I'll press Ctrl J and join them all together. And there we go, that's cool. Okay, so I'm going to hit the / key on the numpad to bring everything back. And we've got more than I want here, I must admit. So we've got the reference images. Let's turn those off. And there we go. So there's our sofa in position. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is make copies of this one and then fill in the remaining gaps. So let's press 7 so we see it from above. This is the one I want to make copies of, so I'll grab this one here. And I'll press Alt-D and X and bring a copy over like this. And drop this into position, like this. And now I'm going to press Alt-D again. Remember, not Shift-D, but Alt-D, so that when we start applying textures to these, then the texture will automatically be applied to all its copies. So I'll press Alt-D and Y and bring this copy over to here. Maybe rotate this one, so in the Z, so I'll press R, 90, Enter, and there we go. Okay, let's take a look at that and see how it looks, and yeah, that's looking really good. Yeah, I'm pleased with that. So in the next lecture, what we're going to start doing next is start making our upholstered back panels, which will lean against the sofa back here, which is almost identical process to doing our upholstered bases. So we should whiz through that quite nicely now. We're well practiced at it. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 43. And let's carry on doing our upholstered sofa backs. So let's make a start maybe with this one right here in the corner. So I think the first thing I'll do is hide this one. So I'll select this one and I'll just press H to hide it. And I'll actually grab this one too and I'll press H and I'll hide that. Okay, so let's look at this one and look at the scale first, and the scale is correct. So let's tap into edit mode with it. Okay, so let's look at this one and click on it, and the scale is correct. So let's go to modifiers, add modifier, generate, and this subdivision surface modifier. Let's turn the levels up to 4. And let's turn on cage, and there we go. So let's tap into edit mode with this one, and let's select this edge here, and we'll press Ctrl R, and we'll put in 4 loops, and click again. And now before you deselect, let's scale those up in the Y, so S and Y, and just pull those out closer to the edge to, I'd say, something like that. Let's do the same this way now. Let's press Ctrl R and put in 4 loops. There we go. And I think I'm going to leave those exactly where they are. I quite like those like that. But I'm going to add an extra loop here. So I'm going to press Ctrl R and put a loop in this way like this. And I'll do the same here. I'll press Ctrl R and put a loop in here like this. So there's our sofa back, and I think that's absolutely fine. So I'll actually click optimal display so that we can see what mesh we've really got here. And yeah, I mean it's quite dense as we expected it would be, but we kind of need all these vertice points to be able to sculpt these edges. So I'll leave that exactly as it is, and I'll go ahead and apply it. So I need to tap out of edit mode to do that. And there we go. And we can do a shade auto smooth on it as well. Alright, so that's our first cushion done. So let's do some more. So I'll press Alt H now to bring back those other 2. And what I'll do is I'll select this one, hold Shift and select this one, and I'll press H and hide those. And I'll go ahead and check the scale on this, and the rotation is out, so I'll press Ctrl A and apply rotation and scale, and I'll add our modifier, generate, and subdivision surface modifier. I'll take our levels up to 4, and I'll turn on cage, and I'll right click and I'll shade auto smooth. Okay, so let's tap into edit mode with this, and let's grab this edge here, press Ctrl R, and put 4 loops on, and there we go. So I'll scale those up in the X, I'll press SX, and just bring those closer to the edge like this. And now I'll grab this edge here, and I'll press Ctrl R, and I'll put 4 loops in this way. And there we go. I won't move those, I'll leave those exactly where they are. So also I'll put a loop in here, so I'll press Ctrl R, and put that one in like that, and put one here too, Ctrl R, and put that one in like that. Okay, so once we've done that, let's tap out of edit mode, and let's inspect what we've done. I'm happy with that, so I'll go ahead and apply it. Okay, so let's bring back our other stuff now. So I'll press Alt H, and there we go. So I think at this stage you should know well what we're doing, applying these subdivision surface modifiers to these and putting the loops on. So what I'm going to do is leave you to it to continue to do this process for these other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cushions exactly the same way. Nothing changes. Just remember to apply any rotation and scale as you go, and you'll be fine. So I'll see you back in a minute when we've got all these with the subdivision surface modifier applied and looking more like these first two. Okay, so we're back together again, and hopefully your sofa backs are looking like this, sort of rounded off, using the subdivision surface modifier and applying the control loops as I showed you with the first two. In fact, I'm sure you've got them looking just like this. Alright, so what's next? Let's grab this back here and let's press H and hide that. And let's grab all these backs that we've just made. Whoops. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's grab them like this. That's it. It says all of those, and let's tap into edit mode with those. And let's make sure we've got face selected. Okay, so I'm going to select a face about here in this case, and I'll hold down Control and press plus. Expand my selection until I've got something like that. That looks pretty good. And then I'll press X and I'll delete faces. And there we go, there's the first one done. So I'll do the same thing with this one now. I'll grab one around here, press Control and plus and expand on our selection to something like that. And I'll press X and I'll delete faces. And just continue to do this to remove these unnecessary faces. And I'll press X and I'll delete faces, and let's do this one. X and delete faces, and we can do this one as well. Maybe about there, try that. And I'll press X and I'll delete those faces. Do one here. Press X, delete faces, and the last one. So I'll come over a little bit here on this one because I definitely don't want to delete anything on this face. So I'll press Control and plus and expand that selection, and I'll play it on the safe with that one. So I'll leave that around there, and I'll press X and I'll delete faces. And there we go, so that's that done. So I'll tap out of edit mode with that. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's bring the back. So I'll press Alt H and I'll bring that back in and see what we've got, and just make sure that those holes we've made in the back of these cushions are covered by the back panel of the sofa. And yeah, it's all looking good. I can just see it there, but I'm not worried about that. That's fine. Okay, so let's tap into edit mode with these sofa backs again. So I'll hold down Shift and select all, and I'll tap into edit mode. And I'll press 1 so we can get vertices selection, and we can see some real density there. And now I'm going to go to proportional editing right here. So I'm going to grab one about there. I'm going to hit G, and I'm going to scroll the mouse wheel just to increase the selection And I'm just going to pull that down ever so slightly in the middle. Just so there's a slight sag in the back of that cushion. And there we go. And then I'll maybe as well just grab this one here and press G. And maybe scroll this in a little bit now and just pull this back a little bit like that. Just to get a slight sort of curve in this back. Maybe one here too. Hit G and pull this back as well. See what that looks like. And yeah, that's fine. So I'll continue to do this with these others. I'll hit G. Scroll this up and now pull this back just to get a slight sag in the top. And there we go. That's good. And I'll do the same with this one. I'll press G and just bring this down slightly. There we go. Do the same with this one. Press G. Bring this down. Maybe increase the mouse wheel. And that's looking good. Do the same with this one. Press G. Bring that down. There we go. Grab this one here and press G and bring this one down as well. And the last one. And bring that down as well. And you can take a few minutes just to sort of grab any faces that you want really, and maybe just scroll that in a little bit and just take that in a little bit. Do the same here too. Just to create a little bit of indent in the face of the cushion. There we go. There we go. And let's go for this one now. And our blend is slowed down for me. So I'm going to press Shift B and just do a selection window just to recenter Blender. And there we go. So now I'll grab this one here and I'll press G and I'll bring this in as well. There we go. And continue this. I'll press G. Bring this in. One here maybe, press G. Bring that in, and there we go. That's that. Okay, so I'll tap out of edit mode now and see what we've got there. And yeah, that's starting to look, it wasn't so straight on that top edge, and that's what I wanted to achieve. Okay, so in the next lecture, let's start sculpting our cushions, putting all these wrinkles and all these imperfections in the surfaces of these. Alright, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye bye for now. Hello and welcome now to lecture 44, and in this lecture let's use the sculpt mode to make the seat backs look more upholstered. So let's give this a shot. So let's grab this first one here and let's make sure we've got a shade auto smooth on it. And we could increase the angle up to about a 50. Around about, so it doesn't have to be accurate. And once we've done that, let's go ahead and drop into sculpt mode. So the first brush I'm going to use is the inflate brush, so let's grab that. Let's right click and look at let's turn the auto smooth up a bit. And I think I'll leave the radius maybe up it a little bit, and there we go. So I'm going to run it along the top edge of the upholstered surface like that, and now also down the side. It's a sort of balloon just to puff out this edge a little bit. And again, I'll just add some little dimples to it a little bit as well, just to make it a little more irregular. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the face, just inflating this a little bit. There we go. And maybe on this bottom edge too. There we go, that's looking good. Once we've done that, I think I'm going to use the crease brush. So I'll go over to this one here and I'll click on this one, right click, and let's keep the auto smooth quite high. And I'll reduce the pinch a little bit. And let's try it. We can always change our mind. So I'm going to sort of go from this way over like this. And I'll leave that, but that's probably not what I want to continue with. So I'll right click and I'll reduce the radius. Maybe even a bit more. And maybe even reduce the strength a little bit. And let's try that. And yeah, that's more like it. So I'll put a couple just on this surface like this. There we go. And I'll also lead these around the edge into the actual panel on the face. There we go, that's good. Put another one here. There we go. And a third one here at the base. Maybe just make sure they're sort of going into each other. There we go. And here too. Just make sure that that sort of follows through. And that's cool. And we'll do the same on the top edge here. We'll just kind of put a few imperfections in. And there we go. I think that's fine. I'll put a couple in on the back, just leading this way a bit. Maybe one more down here. And there we go, that's plenty. Okay, so now let's use the great cloth brush. Here it is here. And I'll keep the auto smooth quite high indeed. And I'll keep the radius and strength where they are for now. And let's have a play. Maybe I'll increase, I'll just press a Control Z. And I'll right click and increase the radius a bit. And let's try that again. Maybe one down here too. And maybe one here. And let's see what we got. Also now I'll apply some to the surface here. And maybe one here too. And here too. Whoa, that's a bit much, isn't it? Or shall I leave it? Maybe that's good to have something quite dramatic. I think I'll leave that one there like that. Add to the realism. And that's too much. I'll press Control Z. Just bring that back and I'll reduce the radius a bit. And try that again. Maybe on the top edge. Maybe one here too. Maybe one here. And here too. Okay, so I'm going to use the smoothing tool now just to soften some of these effects. Let's see what my strengths are, and that's okay. So now I'll just use this just to soften some of these wrinkles a little bit. Maybe here, just take some of these out. Maybe that's a little dramatic. And up here, soften some of this. Maybe here too. And here too. And I think I'm going to try the inflate tool here, just pulling this corner, rounding that off a little bit more, just to soften this up. There we go. Just to put a bit of form back into this corner. And there we go. It's quite dramatic, that one, but I think I quite like it. So I'm going to, maybe I'll just try softening this area off a bit here. There we go. Maybe that one. And yeah, I'm going to leave that just like that. So I'm going to go back to object mode with this one. Yeah, I'm happy with that one. I say the sculpt mode is really quite creative. You just need to play around with these settings and these brushes and try and get an effect which suits you. But I'm pleased with that one. Okay, so I'm going to grab this one now. But in fact, I'm just going to maybe select this one first and maybe this one. And press H and hide those. And I'll grab this one and make sure there's a shade auto smooth on it. Increase the angle up to about a 50 approximately. And then let's go ahead and go into sculpt mode with it. So the inflate brush is actually selected. So let's see what's going on here. I'll increase the radius a bit. And now run it over this top edge. There we go. And I'll do that over this side edge too, like this. Just to try and get a bit of a randomness to it. And there we go. Maybe a little bit on the bottom here, just sort of suggest that over time, some of the stuffing has sort of dropped to the bottom. There we go. So I'll use the crease brush now, grab this one, and let's right click and see where we're at with it. And let's just see how this goes. So I'm going to grab one and maybe put it in here like this. I'm going to reduce the radius, it's too much. Try that again now. And put one in here. And put one in here. And I'll continue this one, I think, across the sofa. And put one in here like this. And maybe here. And I'll reduce the radius some more. And now we put one across here like this. Maybe increase the strength. Try that. There we go. And maybe one here. And here. And maybe one just there. And there we go. I think that's fine. Maybe just one across the back of the sofa here like this. And I'll leave that just like that. Okay, so now I'll go for the cloth modifier. Cloth brush, I'm sorry. And I'm going to try here now. And just see what effects I get. Maybe increase the radius. There we go, that's cool. And I'll do the same here now. Just putting a few pulls in this one. And, oh, that's looking good, I like that. Okay, so now I'm just going to use the soften. Just here, the smooth, I'm sorry. Maybe increase the radius a little bit. And now just soften out some of that. And there we go. That's that one. I think I'm happy with that. So I'll go ahead and go back to object mode on that one, and I'll press Alt-H and bring back the others. Okay, so I think they're looking good. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to leave you to it to do the rest of these cushions, because it's simply a repeat of what we've already done on the base and these two cushions up here. So just use the sculpting tool, using the inflate tool and the crease tool, the smoothing tool and the fabric tool to create some really nice fabric effects. And if you ever feel you've gone too far, then just press Ctrl-Z and just backstage a little bit. You could always, I suppose, if you finish a cushion and you're happy with it, do a save. And then if it gets to a stage with the next one where it's just gone far too far and you feel you can't save it, then you can just close Blender without saving, reopen it, and you'll be at a stage where the last two are done, but this one isn't. Okay, so I'll see you in a few minutes when you've got that done. Okay, so I've just finished my last seat back and that's looking good now. I'm pleased with those effects. Like I said, you can take it as far or as little as you want. It really is a very personal thing to how much you want the upholstery to look old on you, or used or unused, or whatever you really want to do with these. I might even dip back in between lectures and maybe soften some of maybe this one and this one. But in the next lecture, you may see these two slightly softer. I think I've just decided I'm going to do that. Just soften the effects in these two back in the sculpt mode. Anyway, I'm sorry. So yeah, I'll do that. But then in the next lecture, let's do the piping that we have here on these upholstered seat bases. Let's put it on these backs as well. All right, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 45. And yeah, let's see if we can finish off our upholstered back panels in this lecture. So we just have the piping detail to do on these in this lecture, which we've already done on these upholstered sort of seat bases here. So we're just going to repeat this process on these top ones. So let's give this a shot. So the first thing I need to do is, of course, is tap into edit mode with this one. And let's press 2 so we can select edges rather than vertices. Zoom in a little bit. And I'll hold Alt and I'll select a loop and I'll go about there, I think. And now I'll hold Shift and Alt and I'll select a back loop. And apologies, this is actually something that I've just realized, or just found out, is I can actually convert two sets of curves at the same time. So yeah, I wish I'd known that before, and apologies to everyone for this, but yeah, we can do two at once. So once we've got both selected, I'll press Shift D and X and bring them back like this. Okay, I'll press P now and I'll separate by selection, and then I'll tap out of edit mode. Grab these, and I don't think it'll let me convert them, but let's try. So I'll right click and convert, and no, they're not highlighted, so we need to do something with that. Okay, for some reason I've got a lot of stuff open here, so I'm going to close a lot of this first floor stuff in my outliner, and I'm going to open up the sofa here and find these objects, and here they are. I'm just going to rename them, and you can rename them anything. In fact, I will. I'll call it anything. There we go. And there we go. And now we can right click and we can convert to a curve. Okay, come down to Object Data Properties and click on this. And down here in the bevel, let's go ahead and increase that again. And we'll add a right to the decimal point, and we'll turn that 1 into a 4 so that it's the same as the seat bases. And we'll up the resolution to 8. And there we go, they look good. So let's right click again and convert back to a mesh. Right click again and shade auto smooth, and right click a third time and set the origin back to the geometry. Alright, so let's just reposition these again now and see what they look like, and see if those are in the right position now. And I think they're pretty good. I might just pull it down just a tiny bit, and that's just purely my preference, really. No, don't like that. I'll put it back a tiny bit. See what we got. See what it looks like on the base. Maybe I'll just pull it up a little bit. Maybe I shouldn't have taken it down. And there we go. I think I'm happy with that now. So grab the piping first. So there we go, grab the piping, hold Shift, and then grab the upholstered back panel, and press Ctrl J to join them into one. Okay, there we go, so that's looking great, I like that. Let's do that again. Let's go to the second one here now. So line up like this, so you can see the previous one. Tap in it, tap into edit mode, and hold Alt, and select that loop, which I'll go about there. I think that's about the same. Nope. I'll try that again, so I'll hold on to Alt and grab maybe this one here, and yeah, that's better. And now I'll press Shift and Alt, and I'll select maybe this one here. That'll look about right. I think it does. And I'll press Shift D and X, and I'll move that set back like this. I'll press P, and I'll separate by selection. Tap out of edit mode, grab these. Let's just assume we can't convert them and rename this, and I'll just call them 1, 2, 3 this time. There we go. And now let's grab them again, right click and convert to a curve. Come down to bevel and let's up this, and let's put a 0 to the right of the decimal point and turn the 1 into a 4. Click enter. And now let's turn the resolution up to a 8. There we go. Let's convert that back to a mesh now, and do a shade auto smooth, and let's set the origin to the geometry, and now pull those back. Line them up with the other ones, but also do a visual inspection on it and see how it actually looks. I'm going to pull that down again just a tiny bit. And there we go, I'm happy with that. So let's grab the piping detail, then grab the seat back, and let's press Ctrl J and join them together. And there we go. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to do the other ones now. We've kind of done this process quite a few times now with the seat base and then these two here. So it's really quite an easy process. Just go into edit mode, hold Alt, select a loop, hold Shift and Alt, and then select a second loop. Press Shift D and then move your copy out the way. and then press P to separate by selection, tap out of edit mode and convert it to a curve. Alright, so I'll leave you with that and I'll see you back in just a few minutes. Okay, so I'm back, that's it, I'm done. So hopefully you're done too, and it's looking good. I like that process because it's such a simple process, but the effect is really good. I like what it does. It creates a really nice piping detail, which just adds realism. So I think in this lecture there's one more thing I want to do, which is just to clean up our outliner here in the sofa group. So what I'm going to do is click on the actual main heading of the sofa and add an extra file, and I'll click on the sofa main heading again and add a second file. So I'll click on the first one here and I'll rename this and call it seat bases. There we go. And now I'm gonna, with that selected, I'm gonna grab all these seat bases. 1, 2, 3, 4, and there's one more. 5. And I'll press M and I'll go to collections and go to ground floor, interior, sofa, and seat bases, and there we go. And go ahead and compress that. Incidentally, there's another way of doing that. You could simply drag all those files into that group. It's completely up to you. So I'll grab this one here now and I'll rename this and I'll call this upholstered backs. I guess I should have called the one above there upholstered seat bases, but as long as I understand what's being said, that's cool. Alright, so I'll grab these ones, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, and I'll press M, collection, ground floor, interior, sofa, upholstered backs. There we go. And I'll compress that one too, and the sofa group has been simplified greatly. Okay, so that's it for this lecture, and in the next lecture we're going to put some loose cushions on this sofa, and I'm going to show you some super cool functions within Blender. I'm going to show you the cloth modifier, and I'm going to show you how to apply gravity to an object as well. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now. Hello and welcome now to lecture 46, and in this lecture let's have a go at making our loose cushions, which is kind of like the last stage for this sofa, just to add some extra realism and some extra details and give it that wow factor. And we're going to use some new functions in Blender. We're going to learn a bit more again, and we're going to use particle physics, and we're going to use cloth modifiers. And these are two really impressive things that Blender do. And what we basically can do is apply physics to our cushion so that it has gravity, so that it falls. And while it falls, it interacts with other surfaces. It's really quite cool. So let's make a start. So I think the first thing I want to do is here in the sofa group, let's click on this and let's create a sub file. And here it is here, sofa 3. I'll click on it and I'll call this loose cushions. Loose cushions, there we go. I'll put an extra O in the loose, not lost but loose, there we go. Once we've done that, let's actually just grab this one here and let's press Shift S and let's bring cursor to the selected, and now let's bring in a new object. So let's press Shift A and mesh and cube. Let's scale this object down and then bring it up until we've got a kind of cushion size. So I'll press S and scale it down a bit more, and S again and scale it down a bit more, and maybe bring that down to Z, and maybe scale down a little bit more again, and there we go. I think I'm happy with that. So I'll scale this down in the X now, so press S and X and reduce the thickness of this. So I think I'll scale this down a little bit more in the X, so I'll press SX and just bring this down. So it looks something like that. There we go, that's cool. Now that we've done that, let's fix the rotation and the scale. So let's press Ctrl A and apply rotation and scale. Alright, so that's the first step. Let's tap into edit mode with this, and let's make it have a much more geometry to this, much more faces. The first thing I'm going to do is select this edge here, and I'll select all these edges on this angle. So there we go, everything on the y-axis, there we go. Once we've done that, I'll right click and I'll subdivide. Here in the number of cuts, I'm going to type in a number. I'm going to just press 75 and click enter. There we go. So it's quite a lot of faces, but we need it. We need quite a lot of mesh for this object. I will select one edge like this now, and I'll come up here to select. And I'll come down to select similar, and I'll select all the same length. And there we go. With that done, I'll right click and I'll subdivide. And again, I'm going to make this 75. And click enter, and there we go. The next thing I'll do is I'll select this edge here like this, and I'll press Ctrl R, and I'll scroll the mouse wheel a couple of times, and then I'll left click and left click again. And in the number of cuts, I'm going to put this maybe at about 8, I think. I think 8 will be fine. Once we've done all that, let's tap out of edit mode, and that's it for this object. Okay, I think we need to reduce what we're looking at now, so I'm just going to select this one, and this one. In fact, before I go any further, I'm going to select this object and I'm going to make a copy of it. So I'll press Shift E and Y and bring a copy over like this, and just put that there like that. Okay, now I'll select this object, and this object, and I'll hit the / to isolate them. Alright, I think the next thing I'm going to do is do a save, because when we start working with particle physics, it's not unheard of for Blender to crash, so I think I'm going to do a save right now. So I'll press Ctrl S, so that if it does crash, we've not lost our progress. Alright, so I'll grab this now, and I'll bring this up in the Z-axis quite a bit, to about there, I'd say, and then I'll bring it over in the X to about there. I'm going to rotate that in the Y-axis, so I'll press R and Y and just bring this over like this. And I'll also rotate it slightly in the X-axis. I'll press R and X, bring this over just like that, just a bit. So that when it falls, it has a slight leading edge to give it a bit of randomness. Alright, so now let's apply gravity to this object and a cloth modifier. So I'll click on the object, and I'll go over here now to physics and click on this. And with this selected, I'm going to click on the cloth modifier, and there we go. Down here in the timeline now, if I press play, the object will fall. And there it goes. So why didn't it stop when it hit these objects? That's because at the moment, Blender doesn't see these objects as something that this should interact with. So we need to do something about that. So I'll hit the reverse key here, or the back to the start key in the timeline, so that it's right back at the top again. And I'm going to click on this object, and I'm going to add it as a collision. And I'm going to click on this object, and I'm going to add it as a collision. So let's try that again now. There we go. So now Blender has interacted with the object, and then this material, which is cloth, we've used a cloth material on it, has actually stopped when it's hit this object and then this object. So admittedly at the moment it doesn't look much like a pillow, I must admit, but we'll deal with that, don't worry. So let's hit the back to the start key, bring that back to the top, and we could also do a shade auto smooth on this. And here in the angle, let's max this up to around 100 and, well, around at least 150. Let's put it somewhere around there. Okay, so let's click on this object so that we get the cloth properties up. And let's bring the speed multiplier down to about a 3 so that it'll fall a lot slower so we can interact with it a bit more. And the quality of steps, I'm going to bring this on my computer up to around a 15. If you don't have a very powerful PC, you might want to reduce the quality of steps to an 8 or a 10. It's very much up to you. If you see your computer struggling, if it's lagging a lot, then you can always adjust this down. With that done, let's hit the space key and see what happens. So now it's falling a lot slower, so that's a good first step. And there we go. We're starting to get something a bit more pleasing. So yeah, there we go. Let's bring that back to the start. So let's just hit this little one here and bring that back to the start. So I think the next thing I want to do is reduce the weight of the object. So I'll reduce this weight to about 100 grams, 0.1, and the air viscosity, let's bring that up to about a 1.9. And the bending model, let's bring that to linear. Let's try that again. This is going to take a while to get right. We're going to have to sort of play around with the functions quite a lot. But I'm just going to take this slow because it's good fun and we can see what happens. And there we go, it's interacting with the objects. And obviously the moment is still not looking like a cushion, but we'll get there. So I'm going to hit the spacebar and I'm going to go back to the start with that. The next thing I'm going to do is scroll down quite a way to pressure and turn that on. And I'm going to set this quite high. I'm going to set this, I would say, I'll start at around 50, but I'll probably have to up it some more. And with that done, for now, I'm going to increase the speed to, to around a 6. I'll probably slow that down when we get this material looking the way we want it, but for now I'll put it about a 6. And I'll hit the spacebar and see what we get. And now we're getting something that looks a bit more like a cushion. Let's see what happens when it interacts with these objects. I'm going to hit the spacebar right there. And yeah, now we're starting to get something that looks a lot more of what I want. So we have this gap here at the base and we have this gap here. So let's deal with that next. So I'm going to come down to the bottom here and then on collision, let's open that. And bring the distance down to the minimal amount, which is 0.01. Let's start at the beginning here on the timeline and hit the spacebar again. And get ready to stop it when we're happy. Maybe about there. And you can see now that it's a lot closer to the object. When we convert this back to a mesh, we can always just drag it down a little bit more if we want. And there we go. So that's starting to look really good. Still not exactly what I want, but starting to really look like a cushion. Okay, so I'm going to take this back to the start again. I think the next thing I'm going to do is here in the top. On the structural here, I'm going to double this number, take it up to about a 30. And on the shear, I'm going to put this at around 20. And on the damping, I think I'll increase the structural on the damping to around 20. It's just playing around with these numbers really until we get the results we want. And on the shear, I'll put this at around 11. And on the bending, I'll put this, I don't know, around 4. And now let's see what happens. I'll hit the spacebar again and see what results we get. Starting to get some nice wrinkles in that, starting to really look like a cloth. And let's get ready to stop that when we want. And yeah, that's looking good. That's really starting to look good. So if I wanted to, I'd increase the pressure on that. I could try that next. Let's try. I can always bring it back again. So I'll increase the pressure up to about an 80. And let's take that back to the start and let's hit play again. And we're waiting and we're waiting. It's falling. And let's see what happens. Get ready with the spacebar to stop it when you like the results. And let's see what we've got. And yeah, that's starting to really look good now. Yep. I think I'm pleased with that. I think I'm going to accept that. Yes, I am. I'm going to say that's what I want. Once you've got the results that you want, the next thing to do is actually apply those results. So I'll click on the object and I'll press Ctrl-A. And down here, I will apply visual geometry and mesh. So just hit that. And there we go. And now we'll actually turn off the collision objects on this and turn off the collision object on this. So I think the next thing I want to do with this is actually take it into sculpt mode and play around with it just a little bit more. So let's do that next. So grab the object, come over here to object and turn on to sculpt. So I think the first thing I'm going to do is use the grab tool, which is this one here. And I want to try and get the squareness off this corner here. This doesn't look exactly right. I'll right click and I'll just bring the strength down a bit and see what we get. Okay, I'll grab this here now and maybe pull this in and pull this in here as well, until we get more of a point than a square. And there we go. So maybe let's right click and increase the radius a little bit, increase the strength a little bit. And now let's just pull this down a little bit and maybe just pull it in. And there we go. So let's do the same here with this one now. Let's reduce the radius. Okay, and now let's just grab this corner, pull this in, grab this corner, pull this in so we get more of a point. There we go, that's what I'm after. I might come back to this one and try again on this, just pull this in to get more of a point, and there we go. So I'm going to go to the crease tool here now, and let's right click on this, leave the radius where it is, reduce the strength slightly, and just put some extra, reduce the radius some more maybe, try that again, and just put some extra creases in this, one there, and maybe one across the base like this, and there we go, very subtle things. So here, there's something that's just not quite right there. So let's go over to let's try the inflate tool on this. And let's just click on this a few times and see if that resolves that. And it has. Let's just sorted that out. Let's go to the other side too and just click on the inflate tool. And now let's go to the cloth brush and reduce my radius, up my strength, reduce my smoothing. There we go, that's better. That's more like what I'm after. Very subtle, so I'll try that here now. And there we go, I think that's cool. So again, I'm going to smooth this off. So again, I'll just apply a little bit of this to get kind of results I'm after, and there we go. That's cool. That's exactly what I want. So I think the last thing I'll do is I'll try inflating this corner here just a little bit. So I'll right click, reduce the strength and reduce the radius and just try doing something with that, and there we go. Maybe I'll just grab that again now and just pull that out a little bit, and that's it. That's finished. I'm going to call that cushion absolutely finished. So I'll go back into object mode now. So the next thing I want to do is apply piping to this like we have done with these cushions. So let's do that with these upholstered backs and bases. So let's tap into edit mode with it. And let's take a look. So let's hold Alt and select an edge. And yep, I'm happy with that one. And I'll press Shift D and X and bring that out. There we go. And I'll press P and I'll separate by selection and tap out of edit mode. So I'll grab this and I'll right click and I'll convert to a curve, and it's let me. So now I'll go here to object data properties, go down to bevel and increase this. And let's here make this at a 0 and make the 1 a 4 as we normally do. And click enter, and let's see what we get. Let's increase our resolution up to, I think in this case I'll go for a 12. And now let's convert that back to a mesh. And now let's go ahead and shade auto smooth, and let's increase this. Oh, it's really quite high already. Then I think we'll leave that just where it is. So we can right click on the object and we can set the origin to the geometry and take that back to the cushion and put that into position. as we think it should be. So take a minute now just to position that exactly where it should be. Am I happy with that? Maybe over a little bit. And yeah, that's looking good there like that. I think I'm happy with that. So grab the piping, grab the cushion, and press Ctrl J and join them. And there we go. So that's it in the loose cushion. Alright, so that looks awesome. I'm really pleased with that result. It's been quite a long lecture, but hopefully you've learned a lot. So let's bring everything back and see what the results are. And that's looking good. So I think in the next lecture I'm going to go ahead and do exactly the same again with this one with you. And then I'll leave you to it after that to do a few more. Alright, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 47. And yeah, let's carry on with the cushions and see what we can do. So I think the first thing we want to do is go ahead and make some duplicates of this item. So I'll grab it and I'll press Alt D and Y and bring a copy over and place it maybe here like this, and I'll press S and I'll just scale it up slightly just so we got some random sizes. With that done, I'm going to rotate that, so I'll press RZ 90 enter, and I'll bring this one over and drop this somewhere else. Okay, I'll put that one here like this maybe. So now I'm going to make a third copy, so I'll grab this and I'll press Alt D and X and bring this over like this. But so it doesn't look identical, I'm going to right click and go ahead and mirror in the X axis, and there we go. Maybe we just need to take this up a little. Let's have a look. And there we go, that's cool now. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's create another cushion. It looks like it's a little bit still on the surface there. I'll bring this up a little bit like this, and I'll rotate in the Y, so I'll press R and Y. There we go, that's better, that's fine now. Okay, so now that we've done that, let's maybe make a duplicate of this again. So I'll press Shift D and Y and take that over there like that, just in case we need it. And now grab this one, hold Shift and grab these three, and let's hit the / key on the numpad. Alright, so let's reposition this. So I'll take this over in the X, now taking it up in the Z. Maybe take it a little bit higher and a little bit further over. And I'm going to change this one around a little bit so that it has different characteristics to the last. So I'm going to rotate this a little bit more on the Y, so I'll press R and Y and maybe take it over a little bit more like this. And take it forward, and I'll rotate that slightly more on the X, so I'll press RX and go ahead and do something maybe like this. And there we go. Alright, so let's check the scale and the rotation and they're out. So let's press Ctrl A and apply rotation and scale. And let's go over to physics. There we go. And with this selected, let's press that, a cloth like that. Let's take this back to 0. And now let's select this item and make it a collision, and select this item and make it a collision. Let's go ahead and start applying some of our settings to this pillow here. So the quality of steps, I'll take that up to about a 15. And the speed multiplier, I'll bring that down to about 6. I'll bring the mass down to around 0.1 and the viscosity up to around 1.8, 1.9. The stiffness, I'm going to go ahead and take that up to around the 30 mark. And the shear, I'll take up to around 22. And I've got to remember as well that I want to make sure that the bending model is linear. And now I'll take the shear back up to around 20-ish. There we go, take this up a little bit more. There we go. So let's go down to pressure now and turn this on and take this up to around 80. And let's see what happens. Let's hit the play button. And see what we get. Get ready with that spacebar to stop it when you're happy. And how does that look? Are we happy with that? What can I do? I think what I'm going to do is I'll take that back to the beginning. And on the damping, I will take this up to about 21. I'll take the bending up to around 4 or 5. Around there, say, so something like that. I'll hit the spacebar again, and let's try this. And yes, starting to look better. I'll right click and I'll do a shade auto smooth on this. And I'll come down here to collisions, and I'll bring this as low as I can. And I think I'm pretty much happy with that. I could bring the pressure down maybe. Let's see what that does. Bring that down to around 70. And the structural I'll take up a little bit. And the bending here I'll take up a little bit. And I'll go ahead and hit the rewind, and I'll hit play again. And see what we get. And I'll stop there. And yeah, I like that actually. I like the way that looks. I didn't want it to be identical to the other cushion, and it's definitely not that. I think I'm pleased with that. Yeah, I'm going to go with that. So what I'll do next is I'll select the item and I'll press Ctrl A, and I'll apply visual geometry to mesh. And there we go. So I can select this item now, and I can take off the collision, and I can select this item and I can go ahead and take off the collision. Okay, I'll hit the / and I'll bring everything back and see what we've got. And yeah, it's different to the other one, so I'm definitely pleased about that. So what we could do now, I don't see a huge amount to be done in sculpting mode, but we'll do a little bit of cleaning up. So I'll select the item and I'll go ahead and tap into sculpt mode. So I think the first thing I'll go and do is have a look at the corners and see if we want to remove these squared off points, and I think I do. So the grab tool is selected, so I'll just pull these in, pull this one in as well, until we get more of a point than a squared edge there. There we go, that's cool. And we'll do the same here now. Just pull those in to eliminate that weird square edge that we have. There we go, that's cool. So I think there straight away I'm actually just going to get the inflate tool and just do a couple of touches on those just to sort of make those slightly better looking. Alright, so is there anything else I want to do? So with this inflate tool I think I'll also just do a little bit of trimming here. That's better there, that's just more like the way it should be. And let's have a look on the other side. I think that's good like that. So I'll grab the crease tool now, and I'll right click, and I'll bring the strength down, and I'll just try and apply a couple of creases to this surface. I'll put maybe one here like this, that's nice, and I'll put maybe one here like this, and maybe one across here like this. Really quite subtle. Maybe increase the strength a little bit. And go again there. And there we go, that's cool. So I'll play around maybe with a cloth brush, but it's going to be subtle if I do. And see what I'm going to do. Bring the strength down quite a lot. And let's see, so I'll maybe just try some few ripples there like that. And I think I'm pretty much there. I just want this to be really subtle. And I will leave that just like that. So I'll go ahead and get my smoothing tool and just do some touches on this now, just to go ahead and soften that effect. And there we go, that's absolutely what I want. So with that done, I'll go back into object mode. And I'll go ahead and tap into edit mode with this. And I'll make sure edges are on. And I'll hold Alt and grab this edge maybe here like this. I'll press Shift D and X and bring this copy forward in this case like this. I'll press P and I'll separate by selection and tap out of edit mode. Okay, now I've got this one like this. I'm going to right click and convert to a curve. I'll go into object data properties and in the bevel here I'll increase this. I'm going to add an extra 0 to the right of the decimal point and turn the 1 into a 4 and click enter. And here on the resolution I'll up this to about a 10 and now I'll convert that back to a mesh. And then let's right click and shade auto smooth, and there we go. So I'll right click again and make sure that the origin is in the geometry and I pull that back to the cushion. There we go, that's cool. So I'll take a minute just to make sure that I have the position correct, that I'm happy with everything. And I think I am, so I'll go ahead and join those two together. So I'll grab the piping first, and then I'll grab the cushion, and I'll press Ctrl J and join them together. So there we go, we've got a second cushion. So now what I'm going to go ahead and do now is I'll bring this one out the way for a moment like that. And actually I think I'll scale this up. So I'll make sure that the origin is in the geometry, and press S and go ahead and scale this up a little bit like this. And I'll just go ahead and move this out the way for a moment and have a look at where we're at with the height with this. Make sure this is sitting nicely on the sofa. And there we go, that's cool. So now that I've done that, I'll make a copy of this. So I'll press Alt D and Y and bring a copy over like this and drop this in the corner like this. And I'll go ahead and make another copy now. So I'll press Alt D and X and bring this over like this. And I'll go ahead and rotate that in the Z. So I'll press RZ 9 0 enter. And I'll go ahead and bring this back on the Y axis. Till it's looking good, and then I think I'll also right click again and mirror in the X axis just to switch that around a little bit. Okay, so I think that's looking good, and I think I'm happy now with the amount of cushions that I've got on the sofa. I don't think I'll go any further, but if you did, then please do just carry on. What you could do is you could also use the cushions that we've already got as collision objects. So you could use an upholstered back, a seat base, plus a cushion as collision objects when you create your next one. That'd be a nice idea. But for me, that's more than enough. I don't want any more than that. So it's just one more thing to do, and that's to create an empty and parent all these objects to it. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'll press Shift A and empty and plane axis, and I'll bring that up like this. So now that we have our axis, the next thing we need to do is reselect all our objects. So I'll grab that and the feet and the back and the upholstered backrests and the seat bases and the loose cushions. And then finally I'll grab the empty. And with all those selected, I'll press Ctrl P and I'll set parent to object. And there we go. And then these broken lines stretching through the whole object tells us that we have everything parented. So now if we want to move, all we need to do is just go ahead and move just the parent. Okay, so that's the end of this lecture, and that's actually the end of the sofa. So in the next lecture, what we're actually going to do is work on the ceiling here on the ground floor, making a bit of a recess for lighting. Okay, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next lecture. Bye-bye for now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 48. And in this lecture, let's do something with our ground floor ceiling. Let's create this light well and just put a little bit more going on in this quite large area. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is maybe open the ground floor and let's hide a few things. So I'll hide the ground floor walls. I don't think I need those. And I'll hide the sofa. I don't need that. And this guy actually, maybe, do I want him at all now? Yeah, I'll keep him for now, but I'll just scoot him out the way. Don't want him around at all. And let's hide the outside. Let's open the outside and let's hide the boundary walls, paving slabs, pool, and pool edge. In fact, we could have just hid the entire outside. And with that done, that's about all I really need to conceal. So now let's go ahead and bring the cursor back to the world origin. So let's press Shift S and cursor to world origin. And now let's go ahead and bring in a cube. So I'll press Shift A and mesh and cube. Alright, I'm going to press Control 7 to get the orthographic view of the underside like this. And I'm going to go and scale this up now in the X. So I'll press SX and bring this out a bit more. SX, bring this out a bit more to maybe, where should we go? About there, I'd say. And now let's scale it up in the Y. So I'll press S and Y and go ahead and do the same and bring that out to maybe there, like that. Okay, I'll press 1 so I can see this from the front now. And I'll go ahead and bring this up so that it goes inside the ceiling by about this much, like that. Okay, now I'm going to bring back the ground floor walls and just see what my spacing's like with this cube. And the floor here, I'll just hit H and hide that. Don't want to see that for now. And see what this looks like. And I think it's too wide in the Y-axis. So I'll go ahead and scale this down in the Y. So I'll press SY and bring this in a little bit to maybe something like that. I think that's better. And am I happy with that now? Maybe I'll scale it down a little bit more in the X. I'll press SX, bring it down a little bit more to about there, like that. And now with that, I think I'm happy. So the next thing I'll do is I'll check this, and the scale and everything is okay. And let's check this cube now. And let's redo this one. So let's press Control A and apply rotation and scale. Now let's select this one here. Go over to our modifiers. Add modifier, generate, and boolean. And let's get the little dropper and drop it on our cube. Let's find our cube here it is, and hide it and see if that boolean's worked, and it's worked fine. So now let's go ahead and apply this boolean. There we go. We could bring our cube back now and we could go ahead and reduce that in the Z. So I'm going to press SZ and just scale that down the Z axis to maybe something like that. And I think the next thing I'm going to do is we can actually go ahead and fix the scale on this. So I'll press Control A and apply rotation and scale. And it's flipped the normals, which is not something I want. So I think I'm going to tap into edit mode with it and press A for all. And I'll go over to mesh and go down to normals and flip. And there we go. Okay, I'll tap out of edit mode with that. And I want to reduce it first of all, I think, in the x-axis. So let's see what the size is like. So in the x it's 13, so I'm going to make it maybe 12.5. So I'm going to change the 13 to a 12. And I'm just going to turn this, I'll just put a 5 there on its own. And click enter. There we go, that's what I want. So now in the y-axis, let's take a look at the y, see where we're at. We're at 4.9. So again, I'll just make this 4.5. And click enter. And there we go. So next I'll go ahead and take this up like this. And let's press 1 so we can see this in the orthographic view. And I want to put it about there. I want it to be a little bit lower than the main ceiling. So I think that's about right for me. Okay, so let's find this item. Let's decide where to put it. And I think I'm just going to put it in the interior file. So I'll just grab it and drag it into the interior group. There we go. And now I'll name it. And I'll call it ceiling panel. There we go. Now that we've done that, maybe let's put some bevels on everything. So I think for now I'm just going to grab this and I'm going to hit the / key to just isolate it. Let's tap into edit mode with it and let's make sure we've got edge selection on, which we have. And I don't think we got some, it's created some extra edges here with this Boolean. I don't think I can get rid of those. I think it's going to cause me issues, but I'll try dissolving it and see what happens. Blender won't let me dissolve it. I think that's an absolutely necessary bit of geometry. So we'll select these edges here. So I'll grab this one and this one, this one. I'll use that corner as well. And I'll select this one and this one. Move to the other side. And grab this one and this one, this one. I think that's all of them. So I'll zoom in a little so I can see what's going to happen. And now I'll press Ctrl B. And I'll go ahead and create a bevel on that edge. I'll scroll the mouse wheel a few times to get some extra details there. And I'll put a small bevel, something like that, on that edge. That's fine. Okay, so I'll tap out of edit mode with that. And I think we're done with that. Going to hit the / to bring everything back. And I'm going to grab this panel now, and I'll go ahead and hit the / again now to isolate it. Now I've done that, let's go ahead and fix the scale on that. So I'll press Ctrl A and apply rotation and scale. And let's go ahead and add a modifier to it. And we'll add a bevel modifier to it. We'll zoom in so we can see what we got. And let's go ahead and add an extra 2 zeros. Click enter, and let's turn the 1 to maybe, let's try a 9 and see what that looks like. And maybe increase the segments to a 5. Maybe a 4 should be good. I'll leave that at a 4. Okay, so I'll go ahead and apply that bevel. And I'll also do a shade auto smooth on this. And there we go, that's all done. Okay, so let's bring everything back. So I'll hit the / key on the numpad. And that's it for the ceiling. That's all I really wanted to do with that. But I think there's one more thing I want to do. I want to put a pair of these sort of door tracks on the ceiling as well, because these doors would need similar tracks on the ceiling for them to run. So I'll grab these and I'll press Alt D and I'll take that up in the Z axis like this. So the next thing we'll do is we'll rotate this. So I'll press RX 180, enter, and they're going to be off center right now, but we can deal with that. So I'll just bring this over like this, and we'll just see where that's landed. And I'll press RY, I'll press GY, and bring that back until it's kind of in the right position like this, and that should be good. Okay, let's go ahead and take that up now, and put that into the ceiling. I'm going to press Shift B and recenter. There we go. So I'll grab these now and I'll go ahead and take those up a little bit more to about there. I think that's about where I want them. Okay, so that's kind of it. So let's go ahead and bring everything back now and see what we got. And I'll press Alt H and bring back the floor, and there we go. Okay, so I think that's basically us done with modelling. I don't think we've got any more modelling to do. We might have some minor things to do. I think when we start working on the kitchen, so we'll actually bring in a kitchen from BlenderKit, but we may end up tweaking that a little bit. So that'll be a tiny bit of modelling there. But as a rule, I think we're pretty much done with it. Okay, so I'll see you in the next lecture where we start thinking about textures. Thanks very much. Bye-bye now. Hello, and welcome now to lecture 49. And in this lecture, we need to do a little bit of preparation of some more surfaces ready to start texturing. So the issue that I have right now is the sort of ceiling between the ground floor and the upper floor. So the outside area here is going to be like a rendered finish, the same as the walls. But the other side of this track here, this door track, will be painted, interior painted. So we need to be able to divide this surface. And we need to do the same as well, just on the edges as well, just there. Whoops, if I can get to it. Let me see if I can get to it. There it is there. We need to sort of divide that off there. So this little area here is rendered, but beyond that is just painted. So let's see what we can do. So I think the first thing I'll do is on the outside, I'm just going to hide all the outside components in one hit. And then I'll also hide this floor. So I'll just hit H on that and get rid of that. So we can just see what we're working with. So I think I'll hide those as well. So I'll hit H on those just to simplify the model. Let's see if there's anything else we can hide. We can hide the TV wall. We can hide the sofa. We can hide the ceiling panel. And there we go, that's just simplified our model quite a lot. In fact, we can hide these two as well. So we'll hit H and just hide those. Simplify this as much as we can. So now we're going to use a new tool we've not used before. We're going to use the knife command, and I'll show you how to do that. So first of all, we tap into edit mode with this one. And make sure you've got edge selection on. And I'm going to draw an edge across. So I'm just going to select an edge here, going to right click, and I'm going to hit knife. And I'm going to select about here like this. And now I'll go over to the other side. I didn't actually mean to flip it, but it works in my favour. Go over to the other side and snap it around there like that. And I'll click enter and see what we got. And that has worked out quite nicely. That's pretty much exactly where I want that divide line to be. Sort of halfway across all the doors, so that this side could be like an exterior rendered finish, and this side could be paint, and that the door track will conceal what's in between. Okay, so now we'll just press 3, select faces, and make sure that we've done that. So that's working well there. We can select this one too, and yeah, it's divided these surfaces nicely. So we'll repeat that now just here. So I'll right click. Sorry, I'll press 2 so I can select edges. Now I'll right click, go to knife, and put one about there like that. And I bring that over and drop it about there and hit enter. And there we go, that's sorted that one out too, so that this little area here can be grey, and this area, the other side of it in the middle, can be white. And we'll just do the same here on this opposite side now. We'll just right click and grab the knife and put that about there like that. And now bring that over and drop that about there like that. And I'll hit enter. And there we go. So that's sorted that out. So that's a good start. So I'll tap out of edit mode just for just a minute. And I'll go ahead and grab this piece now, the actual main walls for the first floor, and I'll hit the / to isolate. So the other thing I want to be able to do is divide the rendered surfaces upstairs from the internal painted walls. So I need to put some extra curves in for that too. So I'll tap into edit mode again now. And make sure edge is selected, and I'll grab this edge here, and I will grab this edge here, and I'll press Ctrl R, and I'll put a loop in like that, and that works nicely for me. Yep, that's exactly what I want. So with that done, let's grab the knife tool this time. So I'll right click and I'll grab the knife and I'll just snap to that edge there, and then I'll bring that down to somewhere around there. Looks good to me. And I'll click, and then I'll click it, press enter. And there we go, that's sorted that one out and put an edge there. So this side will be painted and then this side will be rendered, and then the window itself will sort of conceal anything in between. And if we wanted to, we can press 1, grab this vertex here and just pull that over. Whoops, I will turn off proportional editing. And now I can pull that over if I need to, just to square that up if necessary. Okay, so where next? Where do we need to go? So we've done that one. So I'll grab maybe first, now I'll press 2, and I'll grab maybe this edge here, and I'll hold shift and grab maybe this edge, and I'll also grab this edge, and I'll press Ctrl R and see if we can get a loop. And we can, that's worked. So now we can use the knife tool again here. So I'll right click, I'll select the knife tool, snap to that line there, and then bring this down, left click, and then hit enter. And there we go. And again, if we need to sort of just move those vertices over, when we bring the windows back in, we can do that then. Okay, so we got a nice curve in there. We could do something with this now maybe. I'll press 1, I'll grab this vertex here, I'll hold shift, I'll come over to this side, grab this vertex, I'll now right click, and I'll connect vertex paths, and there we go. So again there, this face could be rendered, and then beyond that will not be. Alright, where to now? Now we sort of need to just repeat ourselves on this side. So I'll press 2 so I can select edges, and I'll grab this edge, hold shift and grab this one here, and I'll grab this one here, and with those selected I'll press Ctrl R and see if we can get a loop in there, and we can. There we go. So with that done now, I'll right click and I'll use the knife tool, and I'll just grab there like that, and I'll bring this down and try and get it reasonably perpendicular, and just left click and press enter, and there we go. And now we just need to connect those on the floor, so I'll press 1 so we can select vertices, grab this vertices here, hold shift, grab this one, nope, not that one, that one, I'll deselect that one and reselect this one, and now I'll right click and I'll connect vertex paths, and there we go. So we've got one more to do, and that's here. So I'll press 2 so we can select edges, and I'll grab this edge here, hold shift, and I'll grab this one here, and I'll grab this one here, and I'll press Ctrl R and join that with a loop, and there we go. So now we could do something with this here, so we could actually right click again and select the knife tool, click on that there at the top, bring this down as plumb as we can get it, and left click and then hit enter, and there we go. So now we could do the same on the bottom here now, so we can press 1 so we can select vertices, grab this vertex here, hold shift and grab this one here, and now we can right click and we can connect vertex paths, and there we go. So that's put the additional geometry in that we needed. Actually, there's one more we can do, which is just here. So if I press 1, I can select this edge here, and hold shift and grab this edge here, and now right click and connect vertex paths. And there we go. So I think that is all of them. I think we're ready to go. In the next lecture, we will start setting up some lighting. Alright, thanks very much, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now.